Yes, I think a lot of folks think that it's synonymous with project managers. I think a lot of folks may assume that programs are just really big projects.
Yeah.
And as a
Yeah.
project manager, I led very large, complicated projects.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
again, the difference with a program is it's a collection of related projects that you manage them in such a way that you're yielding benefits for the organization. So if
Yeah.
you manage these projects separately, you wouldn't yield the same level of benefits if you manage them collectively. So
Yeah.
I think that's a huge misunderstanding. So I would definitely caution folks as they're, interviewing and looking for program manager roles.
Hi, I'm Anna Anderson, CEO and founder of the Women in Project Management Network. I'm a project manager by profession, a career coach, a PMP trainer, and a LinkedIn learning instructor. But more importantly, I'm someone who's been in your shoes. Not too long ago, I was filled with doubt, stepping out of my comfort zone and navigating rejection after rejection. It wasn't an easy journey, but through perseverance, hard work, and lessons learned, I finally found my yes. That moment changed everything, not just for me, but for the many people I've since had the privilege to help. I've seen how lives transform when you have the right tools, when you have the right support and encouragement to pursue those six-figure project management roles. On the Project Management Connect show, here I share inspiring stories from project managers who've gone through aspiring to hired. I also bring in industry experts, recruiters, and hiring managers to show us how it's done. Together, we'll explore practical strategies and actionable tips to help you on your journey. So, whether you're just starting out, transitioning into project management, or looking to elevate your project management career, this podcast is for you. If project management feels like your calling, or if you're just exploring, it's time to dive in. So let's get started, fellow project manager. Your journey begins here. All right, today we have with us Ashaki. Ashaki wears many hats in the project management space, and she's here with us today to share a couple of things regarding, her role, what she does in the project management space. Hi, Ashaki, how are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much, Anna, for having me. I am so excited to have this conversation with you.
I am super excited because I know maybe not last year, but the year before you came to the community, you shared with us everything about program management, but then you also wear many other hats right now. You've done project management, you've done program management, you've done portfolio management, you've contributed a lot of things within the project management space. But first, quickly, do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Absolutely. Well, I have 10 years of experience in project, program, and portfolio management across
Mm-hmm.
several different industries. So, when I first started out, I started at a fintech organization. It was a startup. And so that was my first role as a project manager. And we can talk a little bit more about that in a
Mm-hmm.
bit. And then from there, I transitioned into healthcare, financial services. Currently, I work as a global program manager for a tech company. So
Mm-hmm.
I say that that's like my 9 to 5 job. And then my 5 to 9 job, I mentor, I coach, I train individuals throughout the globe in project and program management to help them grow in their leadership skills, to overcome
Mm-hmm.
imposter syndrome, and to be able to apply practical tips and strategies to be able to lead teams effectively.
That's a good thing to do, especially for newer project managers. Me and you were just talking about it a couple of minutes ago, but it's important to also have that leadership, also know how to tackle things like imposter syndrome, especially if you're in a
Yes.
new environment as a new project manager. Those feelings do creep in. So it's really nice that you're using your knowledge and your expertise and experience to train, project managers who are in that space to learn how to utilize that. All right. So can you share your journey though? You said you were project, program, now global. Let us know about that journey a little bit.
Yeah, so let me go back to the very beginning. So, my degree is in technical communications. So, I
Mm-hmm.
essentially have an English degree. And so when I graduated from college, I started off as a technical writer. And in my very first role as a technical writer, I was on projects to write user manuals.
Mm-hmm.
And it was led by a project manager. And I remember seeing her and thinking, wow, this woman is amazing. Like anytime somebody asked a question, it seemed like she just knew the perfect answer to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my first glimpse into project management. And I knew one day that I wanted to do that. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
how I would do it, what would be the path forward, but I was like, I want to do that. And so
Yeah.
fast forward after technical writing, I moved into business analysis. And so
Mm-hmm.
in that role, I was really instrumental in gathering requirements, making sure those requirements were tested so systems could be built out in the pharmaceutical industry. And that's when I first started managing a small piece of a very large project. I started,
Mm-hmm.
writing charters and taking notes and meeting minutes and setting agendas and all of that good stuff. And I was like, okay, look at this. It was such a small piece. I wanted a bigger piece of the puzzle. And so what
Mm-hmm.
I did is I went out to LinkedIn and I just started typing and searching for project managers. And
Mm-hmm.
I found a few folks that were project managers, started connecting with them. And then I found a role for a project manager at a financial tech startup. And so I reached out to the recruiter who posted the role, told her my background. We had a great conversation. I had an interview, and then I landed my first role as a project manager in 2014.
I love that you advocated for yourself. You looked at your experience, you looked at your skills, you said, I can do this, but also just didn't sit on that. You reached out to people at places that you wanted to work at, and here you are now managing global projects. But tell us a little bit about what's the difference? Because some people are like project manager, program manager, portfolio manager. What's that difference so that people can just understand that?
Hmm. Yeah, that's really good. So let's start with project management. With project management, you are overseeing a defined scope and
Mm-hmm.
you are getting to a deliverable, right? There's a start date, there's an end date, and you're really driving the scope, the budget, you're driving the quality, you're driving that schedule. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's very deliverable driven. When we talk about program management is a collection of related projects. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you're driving a program, it's a larger scope, it's a lot more complicated, it's a lot more stakeholders, and you also are looking for benefits. So,
Yeah.
for example, if you're building a mobile app, as a project manager, your focus is to make sure that mobile app is done on time, within the right scope, and within the budget. And that's right, you should do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're
Yes.
driving
Mm-hmm.
that deliverable. When you're a program manager, you might be overseeing a digital transformation program that includes a mobile app project, that includes the redesign of an online banking system. And
Mm-hmm.
so those two projects together make up the program. But the
Mm-hmm.
benefit could be that the company wants to save X dollars because it doesn't want to build any new financial institutions. And
Yeah.
so they want to go with a digital transformation. So, as a program manager, you are instrumental in making sure that benefit is realized. So, you're tracking how much money is being saved because
Mm-hmm.
of that program.
Mm-hmm.
And then with portfolio management, that's all about making sure a company is doing the right work at the right time. So think
Mm-hmm.
about an intake process, think about risk versus reward. You're looking at all of the projects and the programs under a certain line of business or for a certain customer. And you're looking at that portfolio and you're saying, okay, how much risk should we take? What type of
Mm-hmm.
projects should we take on? When should we do those projects?
Yeah.
So program and project management is more about doing the work right. Portfolio is doing the right work.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great breakdown of everything because I know, like a lot of the people that I work with are currently project managers, so they can see themselves in the scope of the work that you just mentioned. Whereas the people who, just now are moving on to that program manager opportunity because now they've had that experience and now they're getting more things on their plate. So that's great that you break that down and stuff like that. But you manage a global team. How's that for you?
You know what? It's very exciting.
Yeah.
It's also sharpened my skills
Mm-hmm.
because there's, different things for different cultures, right? The way you communicate. There's a challenge of time zones, even just having a meeting, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
really has sharpened my problem solving skills. So, for example, meeting times, it's like someone is going to be up late, somebody's going to be up,
Yeah.
early. And so trying to have that empathy for the team member. So, one of the things that I leverage a lot is, asynchronous tools such as
Mm-hmm.
Slack, such
Mm-hmm.
as things like Google Docs. So, there's a lot of written communication. So, if someone is not at the meeting, if we document what happened, they can still read through the meeting minutes. They can leverage recordings. So I really had to think ahead of how can I be as inclusive as possible, at the same time honoring people's boundaries and the times that they work. So yeah, so that's been a challenge, but I think I've been able to navigate that with some of the strategies that I just mentioned. And then also even something as simple as, folks might not be in the office because it's a holiday in that country.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to
Mm-hmm.
learn more about cultures, which has
Yeah.
been very interesting, and leaning in and understanding, okay, I need to be sensitive during this time period because this group of people, they may not be available because they'll be out of the office.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also helped me be a better leader and
Mm-hmm.
growing in my emotional intelligence. So I'm super grateful to be able to be a part of a global team.
Yeah, you get to learn their cultures, they get to learn your own. You get to also understand some of the holidays they celebrate. Maybe they can invite you to some of those, just so that you can learn as well. Because again, there's a human part of everybody working on a project.
Yes.
And you using that emotional intelligence, as you mentioned, to help you make specific decisions is very critical for a project manager. And it's one of those skills that as project managers, program portfolio managers, we need to have to help us, manage some of these decisions. Speaking of skills, though, what are some of the skills that you think are important for a program manager?
Wow, that's a great question. So, some of the skills that are important for a program manager is
Mm-hmm.
definitely relationship building, regardless of whether you're working in project, program, portfolio. Like you said, emotional intelligence is key. So, because you work with so many stakeholders and programs, being
Mm-hmm.
able to build relationships and being able to gain that trust quickly. So, one of the strategies that I've used is having an expectations conversation when I'm
Mm-hmm.
working with stakeholders for the first time. I will ask them, what are your expectations of me as a program manager? What's your definition of program management? And I've had some
Yeah.
very interesting conversations
Yeah.
around that topic. But I think building relationships is definitely fundamental and key. Also, as a program manager, you definitely need to have strategic thinking skills. You're
Mm-hmm.
not as tactical, you're not in the weeds. You're working with project managers because they're overseeing the work at a project level. You're
Mm-hmm.
overseeing it at a program level. So you need to be able to coach the project managers or the project leads on those work streams. So you need to always keep that strategic mindset and thinking
Mm-hmm.
ahead around what's best for the business. Are there changes in the market that's going to impact the program? So
Yeah.
very much having that strategic mindset, asking a lot of why questions, whereas when I was a project manager, a lot of my questions were very just tactical, like
Yeah.
what? Where is
Yeah.
this? Well, why are we doing this? Or how is this going to benefit the customer? Or what problem are we solving? So going deeper with those more strategic questions, I would say is definitely key. And then lastly, would also add process improvement.
Yeah.
Programs are usually a lot longer than projects. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have to be agile and look at your processes and see if the ways of working need to change. So
Mm-hmm.
always having that process improvement and continuous improvement mindset, that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely key as well when you work as a program manager.
Well, that answers my questions because I was going to ask you about some of the challenges that you may face in there as well. But is there any that you haven't mentioned so far? Because I feel like you mentioned them as you were answering this last question.
Yeah. You know what? I think what challenges for program management, and I touched upon this a bit, but I can go a little bit deeper. I think it's just the depth and the breadth of the scope.
Yeah.
There's so many moving pieces and parts. And so when you are managing a program, you need to have a very good, strong handle on risk management. You need
Yes.
to understand how your risks are going to be identified, how your risks are going to be scored and rated, your probability versus your impact. So you need to understand that so that the projects within your program consistently reporting about risk. Another area is dependency mapping.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's such a large scope, is there a dependency in project A that impacts something in project B? So you need to make sure that the dependencies are clearly mapped. And I would also
Mm-hmm.
say another challenge is just you have to have those coaching skills because
Yeah.
again, you're not at that tactical level anymore. You're not deep into the weeds, and so because of that, you need to have a higher level view, but you also need to coach people who might be in the weeds. And so,
Mm-hmm.
not expecting everyone to manage a project the way you did when you were a project manager. I think that probably was my initial biggest challenge
Mm-hmm.
when I
Mm-hmm.
first
Mm-hmm.
became a program manager.
So you must have a lot of competing priorities then. How do you go about handling that?
That's a great question. Looking at the strategic goals of the organization,
Yeah.
looking at what's important to the business, what's that 1 year roadmap for the business, and making sure that the programs that I'm working on are in alignment with that, and making sure that
Mm-hmm.
the teams understand what problem are we solving.
Mm-hmm.
That is the key question that I open up when I undertake any type of effort, especially in program management. What
Yeah.
problem are we solving?
Yeah.
And that helps to prioritize, strategize, bring alignment when there are competing priorities. So, based on the problem that we're solving, in addition to the strategic plan and goals of the organization, that helps me to understand where I need to focus my time and attention, and also where
Mm-hmm.
I can help the team focus their time and attention.
Awesome. So again, I'm going to go back to global projects because you are working with a lot of people from a program perspective. How do you keep communication aligned? I know you said you're using like Slack, Google Docs. How about just meetings and stuff like that? After you've, understood maybe their different locations, and how do you go about that? Because I can imagine your calendar is probably full with all these meetings and making sure that everybody is aligned, you're communicating. How do you go about that?
That's a great question. Yeah, the calendar does get full quickly. So
Mhm,
meetings are usually on a weekly basis with the project leads for the different areas
mhm,
that they're responsible for, and so do some very simple but what I found powerful strategies. So one of the things that I do at the beginning of every meeting, I state what program we're working on and the goal of that program. I
mhm,
think the more people hear the goal of the program, they begin to see where their role aligns to the goal. So that's
mhm,
one thing that I do. I also make sure that there's a dedicated workspace that has all of our program collateral, our program charter, our risk, program risk
mhm,
register, our dependency documentation, any design documentations, or if it's a product launch, any documentation around that. So that's all in a central repository. I want to make it as straightforward and simple and easy as the program team members for them to be able to access the information that they need. And then another
mhm,
thing that I do, depending on the length of the program, I usually will survey the team and ask them, is there anything that they need me to do differently as it relates to communication? Do
mhm,
they, and then also asking them, do they understand their role? Whenever
mhm.
I kick off a program, we start with a goal and a role exercise. This is
Yeah,
the goal of the program. And then I go around and I ask individuals, what do you think your role is in fulfilling the goal? And
yeah,
then I follow up and say, what do you need from the rest of us to be successful? So I
yeah,
have found that that really helps the communication for in the
yeah.
beginning, but then also throughout, because I can revisit that throughout the program
Mhm,
and say, remember, this is your role, and we need you to be able to
yeah.
fulfill this goal. So that's been very helpful.
So you must be super busy and your team must be super busy, but how do you go about motivating them?
hmm Yeah, because program management is all around benefits, I like to motivate them by letting them know that what they're working on is going to achieve X for the
Yeah.
company or for the customer. So that's why I'm very big on what are the benefits of this program. And so I motivate them throughout by
Mhm,
reminding them of those benefits and then specifically letting them know that their particular skill set is
mhm,
what's going to help those benefits become a reality. We
mhm.
need you because we can't get across the finish line with this product without your expertise. You're
Yeah.
bringing this to the table. So I found that when people understand that they're working towards something that's greater than themselves, that
Hmm.
really motivates them. And then I also ask folks, like, what are you most motivated by? Like, what do you want to get out of this program?
Hmm.
Sometimes folks are undertaking that program and they're excited about it because it's a new technology, or maybe there's
Yeah.
something new that they can learn, or it's a challenge for them. Some folks, they might, be looking for a promotion, and so
Yeah.
that might be a motivator, right? There's
Yeah.
different, different aspects. So I do have one-on-ones with some of the team members to be able to just find out more about them and what motivates them, so that I am using, the appropriate motivation tactics and strategies to bring out the best in them.
Yeah, yeah. I've worked on some projects where, like the program manager has done like shout outs, like, hey,
Mhm.
shout out to Ashaki, you did this. And sometimes it makes someone just feel good that, oh my gosh, you've recognized me and stuff. But someone
Yes.
who is trying to get into program management, what are some of the things that they would do to help them get into that? Whether they are transitioning maybe from project management or just applying for a manager role.
Yeah, I would say first, if you're coming from a project management role,
Mm-hmm.
then just make sure that you're firm and you're tight on what it takes to lead a project successfully.
Mm-hmm.
I think also making sure you sharpen your skills when it comes to stakeholder engagement, risk management, communication, collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Also, start building out frameworks. Like, how do you uncover ambiguity? How do you
Yeah.
tackle problems when you don't know the answer? Building
Mm-hmm.
out those frameworks and strategies for yourself will help you as you move into a program management role, and that you'll potentially be having to coach some of the project managers that's within your program. I think
Mm-hmm.
if you're coming directly into program management, maybe from another area, and you're coming in with transferable skills, making sure that you understand, just basic business acumen. How do
Yeah.
companies make money? How do they save money? How do they avoid costs? Coming in with a very strategic mindset, and
Mm-hmm.
then understanding how that program aligns to the company's overall strategy. So those are
Yeah.
some of the things that I think that folks can, start to think about, research, sharpen, and focus on to be able to be successful in program management.
That's great advice. How about any certifications? Are there any that would help boost that?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So I have quite a few. People say I have the alphabet soup behind my name.
That's good because you're investing in yourself. So that's good.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. I'm a firm proponent of continuous education, that you'll
Yeah.
never arrive. I'm always constantly learning and growing.
Yeah.
So I do recommend the program management certification from
Mm-hmm.
Project Management Institute. So
Mm-hmm.
it's known as the PGMP,
Mm-hmm.
and that walks you through program management. It walks you through the various domains of strategic alignment and risk management and stakeholder engagement. It really breaks down benefit realization. How do you measure benefits? How do you make sure that benefits actually are realized? And how
Mm-hmm.
do you document that throughout the entire life of the program? So I would recommend the PGMP. It's not
Mm-hmm.
super well known as the PMP,
Yeah.
but there's definitely some materials out there, and I think, it's growing and it's traction. I think the last number I knew of was there was a little under 5,000 people in the world had it. So you will be definitely in an elite company, and you will
Mm-hmm.
stand out.
Definitely, you will stand out, especially on those opportunities that are requiring someone to have that specific certification. You're going to stand out from me, who just has the PNP. Nothing wrong with that, but again, you're going to just stand out. All right. So, what do you think hiring managers are looking for in program managers?
I think hiring managers are looking for individuals who can handle ambiguity.
Mm-hmm.
Because programs, again, there's such a wide scope, and you're working with so many different individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Hiring managers want someone who can come in, and they can clear out that chaos and
Hmm.
drive results
Yeah.
and not have to be, have their hand held along the way. You need to be
Hmm.
able to ask a lot of questions. I think hiring managers are also looking for folks who know how to build relationships, whether that's
Hmm.
in a in-person environment, hybrid, or fully remote. That you know how to connect with individuals, whether they have a technical background or a non-technical background, and that you're
Hmm.
able to I'm sorry, you're able to communicate effectively and efficiently based
Yeah.
on the environment that you're in. Whether you're talking to an executive leader, you're talking to an engineer, you're talking to someone in marketing or legal, that you're able to have those conversations and you know how to tailor the message accordingly. So those are
Yeah.
some of the areas that I've seen hiring managers have looked for, and I sit on our PMO's interview panel, so I've interviewed quite a few folks.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So if anyone is out there looking for a program manager role, your next program manager role, Ashaki has shared it. She sits in those interviews, so she knows what she is looking for and what her and her team are looking for, maybe other hiring managers out there. But if you weren't a program manager, what would you be?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I probably would be a professor because
Mm,
at my heart, in the core of it all, I love to teach.
yeah,
I get really excited when folks learn new concepts. So probably
yeah,
a professor if I wasn't
yeah.
a program manager.
Yeah, I come from a background where both my parents were teachers, and
Yeah.
actually my bachelor's degree is in education. So sometimes, maybe I was just meant to teach as well. But I like that because you are a great teacher, and I'm sure your students are gaining a lot of valuable information from you. All right, is there any misunderstanding that you think people think about when they hear the word program manager?
Yes, I think a lot of folks think that it's synonymous with project managers. I think a lot of folks may assume that programs are just really big projects.
Yeah,
And as a
yeah.
project manager, I led very large, complicated projects.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
again, the difference with a program is it's a collection of related projects that you manage them in such a way that you're yielding benefits for the organization. So if
Yeah,
you manage these projects separately, you wouldn't yield the same level of benefits if you manage them collectively. So I
yeah.
think that's a huge misunderstanding. So I would definitely caution folks as they're, interviewing and looking for program manager roles, and that's a question that they
Mm-hmm.
ask in
Mm-hmm.
the interview. What's the difference between a project and a program in
Mm-hmm.
your organization?
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
there is some misunderstanding sometimes that a program, oh, that's just a very large project, and
Yeah,
they're not the same. You
yeah.
definitely have to have the project management skills to be an effective program manager,
Mhm.
but they're not synonymous.
No, you are right. All right. And I know you have an amazing or other upcoming activities under your belt here. Do you want to share with everybody what you are up to coming up?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. So, I am hosting a 3-day project leadership intensive at the end of this month, February
Mm-hmm.
25th, 26th, and 27th. So, it's
Mm-hmm.
completely virtual. It'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so,
Mm-hmm.
on day one, we'll be diving into what does it take to lead yourself as a project and a program manager? Because my
Mm-hmm.
belief is that you have to be able to lead yourself first before you're able to lead other teams. And we
Yes.
know that that nasty imposter syndrome will sometimes creep up. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be sharing tips and strategies that can be applied immediately on how to overcome that and how you can lead yourself in full confidence. And then in
Mm-hmm.
day two, we'll transition into how do you lead teams? How do you
Mm-hmm.
get the most out of your team? I have a framework called SOAR, and it's
Mm-hmm.
all around how to take your project and program team to the next level. And then
Mm-hmm.
on the third and final day, we'll round out with how to navigate some of those tricky situations. What do you do when a project or a program team member isn't responding to you, or folks are not delivering and meeting expectations that have been outlined? So we'll talk real talk around how do you navigate and get through some of those situations with the leadership skills that you possess. So yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely invite anyone who's a project program manager or anyone who leads a team of project and program managers to attend the 3-day intensive.
Yeah, definitely. I'll share all this information on my show notes. So if you are interested, please, look at the show notes and attend this event, especially if you are, a project manager and you're struggling with things like imposter syndrome, managing teams, global or local teams, whatever that is. I'm sure you come out of this session being like, okay, I got this now. I can do whatever it is to make sure that I'm utilizing my skills from a program manager level, project manager level, to make sure that my projects are successful. But how do people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. So I'm on there. I'm very active. So that's probably the best place to reach out to me is on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I'll put that also on the show notes, your LinkedIn link. This has been an amazing conversation, Ashaki. I truly appreciate your time. I truly appreciate you breaking down everything from first of all, from where you came from. You came from a non-traditional background, but you used your skills to help you move up the ladder. And now you are here managing global projects, managing and working with global teams, and now using your knowledge and expertise to teach others how they can do that as well. So I truly appreciate your time. Any final words?
I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate all that you do for the project management community. I think that is absolutely amazing how you've invested into so many people so that they can pivot into project management, but not only just pivot, but when they're there, be able to thrive. So I definitely appreciate this opportunity to have this conversation with you. And again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Definitely reach out to Ashaki on LinkedIn. She is an amazing person, and I know you respond very fast. So when you have an opportunity, I know you'll respond very fast. So it's not, because you sometimes reach out to people, it takes a minute for them to respond to you, and rightfully so, because people have their lives and they're busy. But thank you so much for always responding to my questions, and also a call to come and share with everybody about, what project, program, portfolio management is. All right. Thank you so much, Ashaki. We will talk soon.
Thank you.